Today on the table, we have a Colt Official Police. So this is a 6-shot in 38 special, as you can see here. It's also not loaded, so we can do our safety check real quick. I've had this for quite a few years now. I'd say like 4 or 5 years. This one is dated until 1945, or it's dated serial number wise. If you do the Colt lookup at 1945, you can see the serial number there. It is all original. It is a 4-inch barrel. I mentioned it was in a 38 special. They came in multiple different calibers, and they came in 3 different barrel lengths. There's a 4, 5, and 6-inch barrel length, so this is the shortest one. It is all original finish. Still has its original grips on, as you can see here. And the finish on this one's in fantastic condition. It has a tiny bit of holster wear here at the end, but really none. And then it just has your standard V-notch sight on the top with the half-moon blade on the back. But some cool history about it, though, is so back in 1908, Colt released what they called the Colt Army Special. And then later on, in 1927, they renamed it the Official Police, which is what this is. And then obviously this one is, 18 years later than that. Now, they changed that name because they wanted to start marketing more toward law enforcement agencies. And it actually ended up becoming one of the best-selling pistols or revolvers for police of all time. That, and besides the Smith & Wesson Model 10, which actually took a bit of their business as time went on. So a couple other cool things, though, is that they use this in a lot of different military and police applications. Because what happened is that at the beginning of the 20th century, like right around 1908 and a little bit before they started making them in 1908, everything was 32 caliber. There are a lot of 32 caliber revolvers, and that really had been like the standard issue for really the majority of American police departments and even some of military applications. But the larger caliber, the 38 caliber, that kind of started phasing all those 32s out because, again, it was more powerful, had more stopping power, and the professionals or the police officers, they preferred to use that 38, or they wanted the higher caliber for that. So again, in 1908, Colt introduced that Army model, and it was basically a sleek, more modern-looking revolver like this, called the Army Special, with that more popular and powerful caliber in it. And obviously that made that sales go up crazy, right? I mean, people really, really wanted them at that point. Now, then what happened was, ironically, was World War I, the U.S. military adopted the 1911, and that kind of made revolver sales fall a bit. So then what happened was, then in 1927, they changed this name, because obviously, World War I was in the 1915 to 1919, or 1914 to 1919, but so what happened was all those people really adapted to the Colt 1911, so revolvers kind of fell a little bit away on the wayside from that. But then in 1927, what they did was they changed the name to the Official Police, which boosted sales like crazy for that, especially with this newer design. And that obviously made them have to make a whole bunch more of these and make the police departments a lot more interested in carrying these for, their officers. And then what they did was that they made some changes to it. So at the time, they added checkering to the trigger. There was a matted to the top strap, which you can see right here. And then this one, the frame is wider. So if you remember my Police Positive video, this is a much heavier pistol than the Police Positive. And obviously that other one is chambered in 38 as well, but it's not 38 special. And this is a beefier revolver compared to that other one. And then obviously it has a really cool blue finish on it as well. Now, the other thing that Colt did to help kind of boost sales, because remember, Smith & Wesson was making a lot of pistols at the time too, but in 1930, what they did was they were posting that this pistol could handle the 38 loads and a heavy loaded 38 loads, which were intended more for like the Smith & Wesson competitions. And then what actually happened is that obviously the little bit larger frame revolvers, the end frame revolvers from Smith & Wesson, those could handle the larger 38 loads, but the Smith & Wessons that were the similar size frame to this frame could not, and only the Colts could. So that was obviously a big benefit, and why a lot of agencies end up buying these instead. So that's that's kind of cool. But it's there's more stuff to it. During World War II, what happened is the U.S. military issued all these to all of the security personnel, police officers, anybody that was guarding a government building. These were all issued to all of those officers all throughout World War II. And then what happened is sales kind of fell off after World War II, just because people didn't need them as much. And, they ended up making 400 and some thousand of these. They did some things to help bring that back, because then what ended up happening was other police departments ended up started carrying these. So like New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago started carrying these, and then obviously that made sales go up a bit too. But after World War II, and then even further on, even though this was their best-selling revolver, the Smith & Wesson Model 10 kind of took over, and that in the 70s and after, that became kind of the main firearm for everybody. So they actually discontinued making this in 1969. So it just wasn't economically feasible for them to keep making it. There was no cost benefit for them. But like I said, they ended up making 400,000 of them. And again, it came in a 4, 5, and 6 inch barrel. Now, it came in a whole bunch of different cartridges. So you could get it in a 41, a 22, a 32-20. Obviously, this 38 Special, it was the other one. And I think that's it, really. So, I mean, you had those like 5 or 6 different options. And again, this still has that lock firing pin block safety, which preventing the firing pin from striking the primer unless the trigger is actually pulled. So, which is a nice safety feature when you're carrying a revolver, especially if you're carrying it like this as well too. So, that makes a big difference if that's the case. But yeah, just a super cool. I mean, check it out. It is a very cool pistol. I probably should shoot it. I have ammo for it, and I probably should take it out to shoot it. But yeah, anyways, that's the history of the Colt Official Police. I'm actually in process of getting a 41. So a 41 caliber one that is a 41 long Colt, which would be really fun to have too. So I'm going to try to make another call to see if I can get that one here today or tomorrow, or at least get it bought. But if you have one of these, let me know in the comments. And then, obviously like and subscribe, and, try to go for the promotion as well. Thanks again.